Put the kids to bed, dad's home. We are the DWO podcast, representing the dad world order. I am the handsome head of household, Mr. Magnificent Mike Martin. With me as always, my two compadres. First up, he is our resident booker and wrestling encyclopedia. He is the big rig, Eric Murphy.
What up? Played the wrong sound.
Sorry. And last but not least, he makes us three. He is the wrestling t-shirt guy, Cephas.
All right, what up, y'all? How y'all doing tonight?
Hunky dory.
Fantastic. Well, as Mr. Magnificent said, we are the DWO podcast, and Cephas is gone. Awesome.
I'm here.
In spirit.
Well, you know what? Just because you're screwing up muted.
He's in the spirit world.
I think that's the quickest you've ever been muted on this. So, we are the DWO podcast, and we have with us this evening a very special guest, the host of the Jungle Gyms podcast, Mr. Mark Borison. Sir, how the heck are you?
I'm awesome, guys. Thanks for having me. Also,
Absolutely.
I didn't anticipate this, but every time I do anything, this is my dog, Bark Morrison, and not a joke. But it's like he knows there's an opportunity for him to get paid. I'm like, no, dude, come on. So, welcome. Thanks for having me. I brought the whole family.
Is he
That's pretty much all of our animals, too.
Got me on the first one, man. Dang.
Dude, I feel like he's just going to tap dance right outside of the show the whole time to be like, are you going to throw toys? I'm like, can you not tell I'm staring at another screen?
If he starts tap dancing, you better pan the camera to him, sir.
Yeah.
See,
He's well trained.
That's what my dog does too. Like my dog, if I start talking to anybody like on the phone or like how I'm doing this, he immediately thinks that I'm talking to him. And I'm like, I'm not even looking at you, dude. But he's just like, oh, what? You talking to me? Like he could be in a dead sleep right now. As soon as I start talking, he's like, huh? What?
What'd you say?
Yeah, exactly. Time to shine.
Outside?
You're like, okay.
Walk? Go outside? No?
Yeah. Well, what? Feed me? What?
You're right.
For those of you who aren't aware, the Jungle Gyms podcast is one of the top food podcasts in the entire world. It is a very entertaining listen. This guy has done some crazy shows with all kinds of guests from all over the place. And I think that being in an international food market might help you get some pretty decent guests.
For sure. Well, dude, like, it's funny because when you live in Cincinnati, Jungle Gyms being this, I guess anybody listening that's not outside the area, it's like this insane international market. So we carry, every time you see an Instagram ad about like Japanese candy or something, we're the store that carries all that shit. So it's wild to me. Dude, listen, we're making a podcast in a grocery store. Like life is already weird, but it's like this tourist destination. So like anything goes. I think that's been one of the most fun things about working for them is that like it's been this insane thing. Can you imagine a competitor, like a button-up grocery store being like, yeah, we'd let you bathe in chili in the entrance. You know what I mean?
Let's go Krogering.
I can tell you this much. Anyone who is not familiar with Jungle Gyms is immediately Googling it right now because they're like, wait a minute. This grocery store in the podcast, they let a man bathe in chili. What is going on here? And trust me, it's weirder than that. There's a giant tiger cat that sings Elvis songs. There's a giant man, a guy made out of corn.
There's a giant cheese wheel.
A giant
They have a monorail. Monorail.
They have a monorail.
And it works too. It's running. Hey, I should just say this right now. I heard a rumor that it's running at our hot sauce festival we're hosting in a couple weeks in August, like the first weekend of August. So, and I think that's included with your ticket price. Don't quote me on that part in case I'm wrong, but you know, I'll shout out the Lot Lord here because he was my connection to meeting you guys in the first place. But I heard a rumor he might be driving.
Oh, just to
so.
clarify, that's our buddy Joey. We have he called him Lot Lord, but Joey is a very dear friend of mine, and I hope that he's either tuning in or seeing this at some point, just so I can shout him out and say thank you for connecting us. Because as soon as I met Mark, him and I hit it off instantly. I think we talked for like an hour in his office at Jungle Gyms, and that's when we decided to do some work together, man. That's when we got you booked here on this podcast. So
I appreciate it, dude. It was fun.
With all of Joey, man. Thanks, brother.
Yeah. I call him the Lot Lord. I don't know if you know the story, but you can buy people lordship for like a fairly affordable price. And we kept calling him that because he was like running the lot at the time. And I was like, oh my God, I got fed this ad where it was like, buy somebody, because the phones are obviously listening to us, but it was like, buy lordship for whatever. And I was like, oh, fuck, dude. I'm definitely going to buy him 5 square feet in Scotland. So he's legitimately a lord. I think it's hysterical.
Really?
I work with royalty now.
Lord Joey.
Don't say. I'm going to need that link.
Yeah, right? Oh, for sure.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Isn't that ridiculous? We should all get referral codes from them after this. I'm like, hey, cut me. I don't want money. I just want plots of land. Just keep expanding my area.
Use
my kingdom.
My kingdom.
Our kingdom.
What the hell? You invaded Poland.
You're like, what do you expect? Okay, listen, I saw how history plays out. Oh my gosh, that's so good.
That's awesome, man. So how exactly do you end up a host of a podcast in a grocery store, man? Tell us a little bit about your history. I know you did some work on Pepsi commercials and stuff like that. But,
I was gonna say, I was like, have you guys seen The Matrix? That's, I think, really what's going on here. I'm like, yeah, I host a show in a grocery store. I can't imagine people don't just think I'm like some unhinged lunatic when I meet them and they ask what I do. And I'm like, I host a talk show in a grocery store. They're like, I'm sure you do, sir. Let's get you to bed.
I drive good.
Yeah. I know the numbers.
No, right. I'm sorry if I'm a little coffee tonight. I just got over being sick. But
All right, man.
I keep feeling it coming. I'm like, God damn it, I'm sorry to present that way. But no, so for the last probably almost 10 years now, I've been working as a commercial actor in Cincinnati. And so you mentioned Pepsi, the NFL, White Castle, Mentos, a ton of like local stuff that's smaller. Like the way I got the cicada costume was a company called Fire and Ice Heating and Cooling up in Columbus that had it's a long story. They bought the suit from, I'm pretty sure, the John Oliver show. It's a crazy story. So I was like doing stuff like that. I hosted this YouTube show around that same time for a tech company in Florence. They were like one of Google's partner companies. And they pretty much tasked me with building a YouTube channel, which I think was instrumental to me doing this because at the time I knew what YouTube was. And I was like, all right, can I build a following? Can I understand how to like make good content that an audience wants, right? And we were doing all tech stuff, so it was mostly around Google products, like their laptops and stuff like that. I worked there for a long time, and then in the summer of 2020, I just shot that Pepsi commercial, and for it, the whole thing, it was Pepsi in the NFL, and I take over Sam Hubbard's press conference. And this is like before, I mean, people cared about Sam Hubbard, but now they like really give a shit about him. This is at that time. But he was great. It's a funny thing. The whole thing is he's trying to do this press conference, and I kick him out of it, and I take my shirt off and all this insane stuff, and they shaved my head into Bengal stripes. So all this is going on, and I get a call from a friend of mine that I'd done some video work with, and he's like, hey, man, I heard a rumor Jungle Gyms wants to do a show. He's like, you should send them your resume. So, yeah, I find a posting that they had out about it. And they were like, the posting was cool because I remember being pretty lax and like open-ended where they're like, we want to do a podcast. What do you think would be a fun thing? We want to hear your ideas. So yeah, I just sent them my resume, which, it looks crazy. It's very colorful and weird. It's got little cartoon drawings of me and shit on it. And I think they were receptive, and I get there and I've like still got the shaved head stripe. So I come into this interview with a hat. And I'm like, hey, I'm wearing this hat because I just did this commercial for Pepsi, and they like shaved my head and all these stripes. I look insane. it was like a whole thing. Anyway, the long and short of it is I went through a couple series of interviews with them where we were just kind of hanging out. They were like, hey, if you could do a show for Jungle Gyms, what would the show be? You know, what's your idea for a podcast for Jungle Gyms? And yeah, I mean, they were really open-minded. It was really weird. You know, I mean, I had ideas and thoughts and everything, but they were really, this is kind of who they are as a company for these kinds of positions, is they were like, we want to see what people have to offer. It's, I mean, it was crazy. And then after like the second, I think, interview, Jungle was like, what if I built you a studio? And I like, because he's funny and no one has ever spent money on a creative ever. And I mean, dude, you've been to my studio now, so you know, like, it's pretty cool. I mean, like, that is an understatement of a lifetime.
It's outrageous. I get what you mean when you know, it feels very, in a way, like your whole life has been directed to this weird, like, crescendo at this point. Like you're in such a peculiar position, but it fits you so perfectly, man. Your personality and who you are is like accentuated in that studio, and I feel like the vibe is something that's unmatched in a lot of podcasts, man. I really think that you got something going, man. Really, really brilliant, for real. I think that your interview style is very similar to ours in a way, except yours is a little more structured. You're very conversationalist, you know what I mean? So I think that when you talk to people, it's fun to listen to, man. And that's the number one thing, is being fun to listen to if you're, going to do a podcast. And that's definitely something you excel at.
Dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You know, I just always go in like, I'm like, let's go skeleton style, right? Skeletons are spooky, they're cool, and those are just enough questions for me to like make sure I get a couple points across while still giving me enough area to be like, let me fill in the gaps with like the rest of the body. I didn't really think that analogy through when I started, but beautiful also, man. I truly appreciate it, man. It's like, it's weird as shit to walk into work and just like, there's like this, in a legendary place like Jungle Gyms, and I joke all the time with my friends, I was like, it's like they built a monument to me in their, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is so insane. And by the way, one of the secret sauces of the business is that like every department's kind of like that, right? Now I'm in a space where it's supposed to be creative, and like it makes sense that my personality would shine out more here than like, say, the meat department, because like you still have to be a meat department.
I don't know.
But what I think is so cool is that they like really let leaders lead. And they're like, if this is successful, we'll keep doing it. If not, we're going to change our methodology, kind of shit. So it's been fun, man.
You know, it's fun. If you would
have that energy, man, I could meet you on the street and just, and be like, you should be doing something in public. Like, you just have that, just your presence is excuse you. I'm married. But yeah, you just have one of those kind of energies, man. It's like you just, even like little promotional videos you do for Jungle Gyms where you're promoting a product. It's fun, just the way they always say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And man, you just have that down to a T.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm very glad to be here at the Mark Borison Kiss Ass Hour.
I mean,
love me. No, dude, I cannot thank you enough for that. It's like so, man, it's so weird because I just feel like I'm this weird dude that said shitty things on the internet for like 10 years. And then eventually people are like, we've enjoyed that enough to give you an opportunity to do something crazy.
I mean, when you walk into a first interview with Bengal stripes shaved into your head, I mean, it makes a statement. You're just like, this is, it's like popping a Bud Light at a parent-teacher conference. I mean, you're just sending a message.
Yeah. Dude, it's so, oh my God. That almost makes me want kids just to have that moment.
Yeah. Just walk in. All right, let's talk about it.
Let's talk.
Yeah, I got a few satisfactory, huh? All right, I get he's a little,
Yeah. Just straight up Homer Simpson it at the parent-teacher conference. Yeah, I'd love that.
Oh, this is great already. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate this.
So you're saying that you're a weird guy. I mean, I don't see how this is weird. Are we sure about that?
For those,
I mean,
watching the video.
Listen, yeah, right, exactly. There's a few thoughts I had. I definitely imagine this is my friend Mike. Hilarious guy. He's like one of those dudes that's always super committed to the bit. And leading up to this, he kept going, I'm gonna dunk a cheese coney in your tub and I'm gonna eat it. And Mike is like the guy that I was like, you will do that. It's the first time I've ever seen him back out of this. And when he went to do it, he like barely touches it in the chili bath. And I was like, oh no, dude, there's no way you're getting out of it. And I like take the hand. And I'm like, bro, you're going in.
Cake, baby.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, listen, I'm clean. It's been long enough. And like I didn't brush it off my chest here or something. But I think one of my proudest moments as an artist was free-handing a nearly perfect gold star with mustard on my chest. A life highlight.
how much chili actually is that?
So I think I know we used 5 gallons of hot water, and I think we were at like 22 gallons of chili. Because we were trying to hit 25 gallons of chili total. But we were like, dude, we're going to put water in this, and my fat ass needs to be able to get in it without it, like, erupting chili all over the fucking studio. Right. So it was great, though. I mean, like, dude, what a cool experience. And, like, I cannot tell you how much I love Gold Star. You know, at the time, they were the official chili in the Bengals.
Yeah.
Before you get too
Gold
far,
Star's on board.
Can you, like, for those that don't know, I mean, I know all three of us know the story and what the picture is we're looking at, but can you kind of give the backstory to the man in the tub of Cincinnati chili?
Okay, so I guess I should preface this by saying I'm not really much of a sports guy in general. Like, I've never really followed football very avidly. Like, I played baseball and shit as a kid, and like I'm a winter sports guy. So this is 2 years ago when we were like the first time Cincinnati has a good team again, and that night I'm watching the X Games because it's like winter X Games seasons. It's perfect. I'm like the happiest I've been all winter.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm watching like the Super Pipe finals, and I'll never forget because I'm like I've partaken in some extracurricular activities, and I'm watching the game. It's great. And I get a text from my mom, and she's like, "We fucking won!" And she's a football fan, but I'm not thinking, right? And I'm like, "We won!" I was like, "The Super Pipe is clearly like a single person sport." Also, you're watching the X Games? That's crazy. And she's like, "The Bengals, Mark. Like the Bengals just won, and it was like right before one of the last championship games. It was 2 games before the Super Bowl." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Well, congratulations." And then I'm like, I can finally bathe in Cincinnati-style chili now, Mom. Ha, ha, ha. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, that's a hilarious post. Give me 1 second. So I get on Facebook, and I pretty much type that verbatim. I was like, congratulations, the Bengals. Finally, I can bathe in Skyline chili now, or whatever the fuck it was. And it blows up very quickly. I was like, oh, shit. Okay, perfect. Good time. But then I'm like, but people know me, I think, as a man of his word. So when I say something like, I'm going to bathe in chili, even for a joke, I think there's a good contingency of or a good part of the audience that's like, he's going to do that. Yeah. So I do that. Then I take a screenshot of that and I post it to Twitter. And I tag, at first, Skyline Chili, because, I don't know anything about sports. So I reach out to the wrong chili company. At the time, they were not the official sponsor. So everybody starts getting involved in it. And finally, the long and short of it is somebody's like, listen, we agree. You get a tub, Mark. We'll bring the chili. So, yeah, I got a tub from Jolly Plumbing. They, like, sponsored the event. It's like the great, again, another sentence you never thought you'd utter, a tub sponsor.
Shout out Jolly Plumbing. I did a couple jobs with them when I was an electrician starting out. I did a couple jobs. Actually, the very first job I did was with Jolly Plumbing.
Best catchphrase in the business, man.
Yep.
It's a flush beats a full house every time.
And dude, it's so funny. And they are awesome. They were on board from the jump. They were like, Mark, what do you want out of this sponsorship? I was like, literally, I just want a tub that's comfortable enough for me to lay in for an hour while I do a podcast. And I want to not clean it up. You know what I mean? I was like, I just don't want to clean it up. By the way, I'm pretty sure the tub is now on display in the lobby of their place. I heard that recently, and I keep needing to go check it out. I hope so. I want to go give him a cardboard cutout of me laying in it. So, like,
the tub is just stained orange.
We can make that happen.
Could you imagine talking to like your 10-year-old self? He's like, hey, what do? You know, when we're older. Well, you work at a grocery store. You're really happy about it, and there's a tub that summarizes the very fact that you took a bath in it.
Oh my god, dude! What? the craziest part about this is, mind you, at this point, I've only been working for the company. Now, we've known each other for about a year because, I'm like consulting on the build of the room and the design and all that kind of shit. But we're not like hanging out day to day where it's like every couple of months I'll show up and do like a couple hours of work and then leave. So at this point, I really only known everybody like 4 months. And at the time, Jungle was not in the office, so I have to call him. And I'm like, oh, shit. And he's relaxing. I was like, I don't want to fucking bother this guy. But what is the amount? Or I'm going to be like, he's not super active on social media, really. So it's like one of those things where I'm like, I got to fucking explain what happened to this guy. I barely know him, and this is insane. And I know he likes crazy shit, but okay, fuck it. So I call him, and, after going through the ranks, because everyone else was like, no, it's crazy. Let's just make sure Jungle's cool. But, and I call him. We had that quick moment of, I tell him what happened. I was like, well, I made a joke on the internet that went out of control, and now people expect me to bathe in a tub of chili and do a live podcast for it to support the Bengals winning. And I know in real life, I'm sure this like moment of silence was just a moment, but in me, it was like 7 hours. So I'm like, I get the whole thing out and I just stop. And then he comes back after, again, it was probably a second or two. He's like, sounds great, babe. Just don't fuck the carpets up. And we're like, okay, let's go. So we literally brought out one of our event carpet wrappers, and they like wrapped it with plastic and shit. And dude, it was insane. We were putting down tarps all day long.
Why did I picture you like wanting to talk to like Don Corleone to get permission for this?
It felt like it, I mean, like
when Dora's wedding.
Well, it's like anything where we're like, okay, this is kind of a presentation, and we were like, we're gonna like, do a full court press like with this, where we're like, all right, let's call the news stations. Let's get people to show up. And we had a fuck ton of people. It was crazy. It was one of those things where I was like, all right, I think I learned a lot about the general public's set of kinks this day.
Hey, I've been saying for a while, we need to change the Daddy World Order and just tap into that kid crowd there.
Why not? They'll definitely tune in for that. And then all you got to do is do one short little segment on it. And you can probably get a bunch of sex-related sponsors. Like, imagine being able to, you got Blue Chew on here, you get all that kind of shit. I'm telling you, let's go. You keep the show 97% the same. You give them 3% at the beginning where you're just like, listen, today's show, we're talking about Blue Chew. Does your dick not get hard enough? You know what I mean?
No! We're against hair plugs and dick pills, damn it.
Hey, why not? Listen. Oh, damn, I got to work on that one. No. So yeah, that was the insane story.
We talked about that before. That's all they've reduced men to is, that's all that our fix is hair plugs and dick pills.
I mean, as I get older and I would argue wiser, I don't necessarily disagree. The only thing I'm missing is like the record player.
Yeah. Whatever she likes, I don't care.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm just happy to be here. Oh my God.
Today's podcast brought to you by Blue Chew.
Mike mentioned earlier about making it the Daddy World Order. So we're not the Daddy World Order, but we did have a friend of ours make us into Dad.
That is awesome.
That's been pretty cool.
Dude, that's so cool.
That'll be on a T-shirt.
That's me. I'm Dad.
Somehow, for reference, I'm 6'3". I'm the tallest person of this trio, and somehow I'm Eddie. I'm the shortest one in the thing.
We're talking personality, not body shape, dog. You are.
Well, you're definitely Ed when it comes to that. So.
Definitely Ed.
I'm Dad with 2 D's. I'm double D Dad.
Oh man!
Shit!
That's what we're all about, man. We want to have fun. We want to, we're just trying to be creative, and it gives us an outlet, man. I think that's what you get to do as well. It's an interesting thing to do, man. Is to just talk to people and interview them. You know what I mean? And a lot of the way we go about it is just trying to have a good conversation. I think that shows off a lot, with what we've been doing lately. We definitely want to thank you for coming on, man. Because at this point, I mean, you're one of our biggest guests so far, man. And hopefully,
dude, thank you.
Hopefully, a couple years from now, man, we'll bring you back on. You'll be like, man, I remember when you guys were little baby podcasters.
Like by then, I hope we'll have picked a different Nickelodeon cartoon to have turned you guys into.
Absolutely.
I'm like, I expect Rugrats next.
Oh, that'd be awesome, dude.
Oh,
Dad
shit.
rats.
Dude, I'm down
That's
though.
the
Call me
thing.
anytime, guys.
Yeah, dude, we have absolutely enjoyed having you on here. This is so much fun, and that's what we've always enjoyed about our podcast. Is it's not a whole lot of structure to it. We just kind of say stuff and let it organically flow. And when you have a guest on that works really well with, it makes the podcast so much more fun and I think enjoyable to watch.
So,
Oh, hell yeah.
do you have a history in stand-up
sorry.
thing, or are you just? Is this just something that you got into because you like to act? You know what I mean? Is there any other history behind you?
I mean, I think if I pretend like I'm at my therapist right now, I'm like, my dad was just very funny in public. He was like one of those people who was quick-witted, and I joked, you'd go to a restaurant and he's like instantly best friends with the entire staff kind of a dude. And I was just like, oh, this is like funny. He's usually got jokes prepared. It was one of those things that I found in like any of my like hero characters. I was just like, oh, I always wanted to do the David Letterman thing. And what I loved about David Letterman in particular was that he was very funny, smart, quick-witted, but he had like a bit of a mean streak, but obviously didn't mean it, Right. And that inspired me ultimately. So I grew up watching a shit ton of stand-up comedy, and I always kind of wanted to do it, but I never had the confidence in my humor until the internet gave me that confidence, if that makes sense. Like, because I would write silly shit on Facebook in its infancy, or post pictures of crazy people I'd see in the mall when I worked in the mall and that kind of stuff. And then it was like, oh, I kind of found my path through that. But I mean, like, stand-up comedy is the shit. It's one of those things that I've done it a couple times, like literally like twice. And I think I maybe would do decent at it, but I don't know. There's just part of me too where I feel like, dude, if I had like 3 more hours in the day, I'd be into it. I think at this point.
I was like, if I add anything to my schedule at this point, it's over.
Well, the stand-up community
really
too, and like no, right, exactly. It's a fucking overrated, dude. The stand-up scene in general, and I don't mean this in a negative way at all, but they're like really tight knit, and I think they kind of have like a high expectation of like hands-on involvement. Like, so when I like pay attention to the schedules of a lot of my comedian friends, it's like every night they're at a different bar doing a different open mic thing. And like, even when I was doing music and other shit like that, I was just like, I was engaged in it, but I was definitely the type that's like, I can go try to learn the scale at home. I don't, and so I think there would be that thing too, where because of my intense schedule as it is, I can't imagine. I just don't think I'd be like well respected and again, not in a mean way, but it just because I wouldn't have time to invest in it in a way that like the scene kind of exists, if that makes sense.
That's not far off from the wrestling community. I mean, really, like, they want to see people pay their dues and work the indies and, put in the experience of someone just coming off the street and being on a big show or just for whenever they doing well, please, kind of.
Sure.
So we get it.
No, that makes, and it makes sense. It's like, I respect that thing, but I'm also kind of like, the longer I've been around, I'm always kind of just like, just don't be mean about it, because, it's like, even though someone might not succeed in a way that you think they should, like, it doesn't adversely affect, it's not ruining your chance,
Right.
And I think about it like everything else. It's like, just be cool. What if any of us get successful, we should all just be good to each other. I feel like that's the move. You're like, do other people's shows, share their posts, support everybody equally, unless you just don't like what they're doing, which that's fine too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of somebody you used to room with. We talked about that a little bit when we were first meeting, Chris Van Vliet, right?
Oh my gosh! Well, so we didn't live
really?
together, but we no, but we just became friends. So Chris used to live here a couple years ago, and we met on a Buffalo Wings and Rings commercial. And
get free wings,
dude. No, actually, I think they fed us like kind of everything else, and I'm pretty sure in the ad. No, he eats wings in the ad, and they gave me a burger, and I'm like sitting. He's at like a table as like the dad. And I'm at the table behind him, like eating a burger with someone I'm with. It's just one of those super simple commercials where it's mostly just B-roll footage of food. And then come into Buffalo Wings and Rigs, and you can fucking hand toss these wings in my ass. And it's just showing pictures of us. But
In that commercial, that's crazy.
I just redub all the ads I've been in with that kind of shit, just see how many people notice. But no, I mean, if you guys are fans of Chris and you've watched his stuff, he is that dude. Like, he's super positive. He's super friendly. Like, I mean, he's a legit guy. It was really nice because it was like at an odd time in my career where I was like, I need a friend. And yeah, he was really good and very encouraging and very supportive of my career. And it was funny because like right before the Jungle Gyms thing happened, he had just moved out of town. He just left for LA, and I was like, I gotta go. And like I booked the Pepsi ad, and he goes, "This is your sign. Let's fucking go." And he's like, "If you need to, I'll help you out. It's as far as like giving you a place to stay for a little bit so you can figure out where to live, that kind of stuff." And he's such a great friend. And obviously one of like the best interviewers on the fucking planet. Like, it's
Dude,
been,
real.
I mean, he was big when I met him, but it's like been awesome to watch those numbers like probably close to double in the last couple of years, if not more. I mean, good dude.
It's stuff all the time. Yeah,
He's interviewed everybody.
No, dude, it's insane. We also did a Watson's Furniture ad together too. That was a funny night. I partied a little too hard the night before, and I had to go to work this morning at like 8, and I had to work almost a half day, and then it was like an overnight shoot. So I was just like red-eyed and not having a good time, and just cranking. Nobody knows this, but I was just like cranking energy drinks in the car. And thank God Chris was there because he's like a bright. I mean, he and I have that like big positive energy for the most part. And it was a lifesaver because I don't think I would have made it through the ad, even though that commercial is just us like walking through a furniture store doing that thing where you're like, "Ooh, it's a couch," rubbing it inside, like no dialogue. Wild time. But yeah, I mean, I cannot say enough good things about him, and I'm very glad he's successful.
It sounds like it because the Watson's commercials. I mean, I remember historically were those type of commercials that it was just like, "Oh, come on down to Watson's and get a couch you can rub your ass on," and so
it's hot out. The sales inside are ice cold. Come on down.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It was just so funny. We would literally. I remember the night was great because it was like they'd cater food throughout it, and then we'd like go sit. And at some point, me, Chris, and this other actor, actually, I should shout him out. His name's Taha. He's awesome. He's a very talented actor. He literally just got picked up for a Broadway show in like the last couple of weeks, and he's like one of a fairly major part in Life of Pi. So that's fucking cool. But the three of us find the massage chair sections of the store, and we're pretty much like, here's where we'll be sitting in between these shots. And so like throughout the night, they would just like walk up, look at the herd of like 20 actors, and they'd be like, you come over here, and you two are inspecting this table. You two are looking at this thing and this, and they would just run the shot a couple times, and then they'd be like, okay, go sit again. And this went all night. It was really easy, and it was a great experience. But man, fun to do shit like that with your friends.
It's crazy, man, because Chris has had such a huge rise really fast. Because it don't seem like too long ago, you're talking about that. It couldn't have been too long ago, because
that would have been. I mean, we met. I think that was 2019. We shot that. So, and then he left here. I think it was like end of 2020. And I think him moving out west was huge. I mean, again, if you're good at what you do, and I think not only is Chris good at what he does, but he is an incredibly hard worker, like a dedicated, driven hard worker. Like that guy's putting in the hours, right? Like he's not. I always hate when people say somebody gets lucky in their career. I'm like, dude, that's not luck. That's like 80 hours a week of work, and you know what I mean, all this shit. But yeah, watching it happen because he's just putting in the time and he's good at it, and he's had a cool career throughout too. Where he's done a lot of the red carpet interviews back in the day and stuff like that too. Really, man, what a dude. Seriously, I feel so weird saying I'm like, I love you,
I mean, I've seen things where people are saying like his interviews are like edited to get like he's not actually interviewing the people. You ever see anything on that?
I haven't before, but I feel like
I think it was like a Mike Myers interview or something like that. He was interviewing Mike Myers.
What?
And like people were saying on like Twitter and stuff, they're like, "Oh, like you just took one of Mike Myers' interviews and like edited you asking the questions to him because it never shows them like together or whatever."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you know how like much work would go into doing something like that. Like
to be like deceptive.
and
It's
I'm
more
pretty
work
sure
than
Mike
doing the
Myers
actual
would be
interview.
like, "Hey, I didn't do this," or like somebody
Right.
would be like, "Hey, this is from that interview," and it's just like everybody. You gain a little bit of success, and everybody's just got to shit on it, and it's like, okay, go fly a kite, man.
Haters gonna
for
hate.
sure. Well, and it's such a thing, and it's like that's probably the hardest part of any form of success is just learning that like people are, dude, I won the comedy award at City Beat, and like the way I found out was because one of my friends sent a screenshot of somebody being like, "This fucking guy doesn't even," you know what I mean? Like he doesn't. Do that. I was like, "Oh, cool." So I was like, "Oh, this is a crazy way to find out I
Yeah.
won." But
This
I mean,
fucking
it's so
piece of
true, and
shit.
it's just like. Yeah, it's like, oh, it's so crazy. I'm like, part of my success is that I don't feel that way about any other person,
It's so crazy
because-
how the negative people are always the first ones to speak out.
Because they're not doing
people
anything else.
And the people that support you are, support you to your face and not online.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, it's crazy. It's like, I was talking with a friend about this today where I was like, there's so much negative output in so many regards that it's an absolute waste of your time. It's a waste of your energy. Like, and I never want to be like one of those like super toxic positivity types. But I also think that there is like a bit of a angle to like, if you try to focus on the good parts of things. This is a crazy sentence. I interviewed Kool and the Gang a month or so ago.
Shut the front door.
What?
He launched. I said Kool and the Gang. Yeah, but Kool. He launched a campaign recently, and he did an event at Jungle Gym. So as part of it, he came on the show. He like signed a bass for us and everything. Great guy. But we kind of had this same conversation, and he goes, "Success is like, he's like, you have to focus on the good things." And he's like, the negative is reliable. He's like, it's always there. Okay. Mm-hmm. He's like, you have to really look past that to figure out what it is you're doing. And, we went on, and I got on my horse or my soapbox about like, we're often our own obstacles, and I think that's what happens with a lot of like, of the aforementioned haters, right? Is that they're so like, maybe they're lost in what they want to do, or they don't know how to take that next step. And instead it's so easy to just be like, fuck you, instead of being like, how can I get better? How can I put this hard work in,
That's such a brilliant standpoint, man. And that's what we're trying to do with this podcast. We want to get to the point to where we can ask Chris Van Vliet on our podcast. And how we're going to do that is we're going to keep doing weeks like we have this week. Like today we have you. Tomorrow we have indie darling Jack Vaughn. And then the very next day we have Lou Nasty, which is a wrestler from Texas. You know what I mean? So we have nonstop shows. We're putting out as much content as we can and trying to touch as many touch points as we can and make friends wherever we can, which is why we've got you here on here tonight,
Hell yeah, dude. Build that network, baby. Let's go.
And like you said, keeping it positive, you know what I mean? I always say there's so much negativity and BS out there in the world, and being able to have this escape, whether we're talking about wrestling or whatever we're talking about, and just having this escape and and just keeping it light, man. There's something to be said for that.
I agree. I think people in general, I think part of the reason like podcasting and YouTubers and all that shit have become so popular is that I think due to the way communication has changed in like a digital space because of social media and streaming and all the shit, I think people are just so craving authenticity in general that a lot of times they don't necessarily, I don't think they're really like necessarily looking for much in the form of structure. They are just like craving to be like, I want to kind of sit with my friends, and listen to these people talk about stuff that I give a shit about,
So let me ask all you guys this. So I find myself doing this on. These are my bitches, by the way.
I love
it.
Screen.
All my bitches love me. So when you guys listen to podcasts that you enjoy, do you find yourselves like talking to the podcast along with it? Because I know I do. I'm like, I'm right along there, and I'm commenting along like out loud, even if I'm by myself in the car, like listening to a podcast. I find myself talking along.
Oh, everybody feels this way. Well, not me. Or we'll quip to a podcast all day. You're not alone, Mike. I love that.
And I mean, just to add on to what Mark said, it feels like, you're engaging with a conversation with a friend, albeit they're not responding to you because you're not truly there. But I mean, it's, that is tapping into that same kind of positive vibe, finding finding that conversation you want to be in through a podcast, and just being there, and I find myself doing that a lot. So
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
For someone who talks as much as I do it less than you'd expect, but I do it.
You said
You
you
said
do.
doo-doo.
Hell yeah. Because I'm out here shitting.
Oh!
That's why you won the comedy award, my good friend.
For shitting. Actually, not
Shitting.
even the jokes. They were just like,
Yeah.
he came to the show and took a shit. It was crazy,
That would be the first for the Dad World Order podcast.
That would be fucking legendary.
Brought to you by
honestly.
Activia Yogurt.
There was a moment where I thought about, like, do you think I can get away with doing this in the bathroom? But then I was just like, no, the couch is going to be. That's what took me so long to get on here.
No, I hear you.
And then every so often I'd just turn the bidet on a little bit and I'd be like, no, I don't hear that water.
No, I don't know. What
I did
you're
talking about.
talking
Clearly, you're sitting on the toilet, Mark.
As you can tell, my eyebrows keep rising every so
You see your
often.
shower.
You get a real serious look every few minutes.
But
It's like
go ahead. Sorry.
We're stupid. Go ahead, Big Rig.
No, I was just gonna touch on how you were saying now people crave authenticity, and I've had that a lot. I mean, I actually ended up deleting it was TikTok. I deleted it like a year and a half ago, and it was because I felt like everything I was scrolling through was just like somebody with a merch code or whatever, like, oh, I'm sponsored by
Right.
it, and it was just constant just horse shit, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or like people that are like, hey everybody, like we did it, like they bought this big ass house and like they had like a GoFundMe set up or something. I'm like, no, you did it. Like you just had a bunch of people like give you money. Like
Right.
we didn't do it. It felt very weird. So
Yeah, it's like
I think-
I can kind of see how we did it since we paid for it, but at the same time, we are not enjoying it. So shut the fuck up about it.
Have a party
like,
already. Let me over.
I'm not letting you guys aren't coming over. So
yeah, exactly. You don't get keys,
I feel like you should have an IPO at that point, like, house party.
Yeah, that should
What
literally
shares to Logan Paul.
be. Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh shit,
Oh
that's
my god, the look.
NFT right there.
Yeah, right. Oh my god, those fucking guys. And then it's like I hate that I kind of enjoyed Prime, and I'm like, I don't want you to be more successful, okay?
I mean, we can't. I mean, the guy's
Listen,
good at wrestling.
yeah, I don't know. I know you don't watch a lot of wrestling, Mark, but he has literally came into the wrestling industry, and we all wanted to hate this guy, and I
Yeah.
still
do.
trying to do.
For the record, I still do. I
But
don't
here's
care
the
how
thing.
good he is.
He's incredibly wealthy, so he could be the best one because he could be like, hi, I have the next year. Make me the greatest wrestler of all time. I do not care how much it costs. If you're willing to also dedicate yourself to doing it, right? I kind of feel like that's got to be part of what happened.
I mean, yeah,
That's the natural.
it's like Tom Cruise does all of his own stunts. I was like, yeah, but he
Right.
sold to Satan years ago, and he has eternal youth.
Right. Like that is also the plot of Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
Who's coming with me?
He's trying to bring Cuba Gooding Jr. to hell. It's a metaphor, God, that would be awesome. I'm gonna write that thing piece for YouTube later and see if it fucking tracks.
That's great, man.
You know how much the human head weighs? Well, they say 8 pounds because that's what a human soul weighs. God, what the fuck are we doing, guys? This is
Are
amazing.
we negotiating? Always.
So,
You guys ever
man,
seen The Devil's Advocate?
Oh, yeah, it's a great movie.
Absolutely, man. Keanu
Oh.
and De Niro? Or,
Or Pacino.
Psh, what am I talking
Like-
about? Get out of here.
Keanu fucking rules in that movie. It's like
So
one of those
good.
times where you get that great Keanu performance where you're like, this method of acting really works. You know what I mean? And
That
it
was
fits
spot
so
on.
good.
Keanu, by the way.
you really love
It's
it.
like one of those like, oh shit, that was I felt good about that.
Wild Stallions.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Oh
I've
god,
never
how
done
good
it.
are Bill and Ted movies?
Oh,
I've
dude,
never
the
seen
new
the
one's
last one.
fantastic. People hate
I
it
love
on
the new one.
but I don't think people realize that time makes things different. Like when the new
Yeah.
Dumb and Dumber came out, they wanted the old one. Like, what do you want? What do you want these guys to do? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it
Oh
was
my
so
God.
funny.
That has one of the best bits in it ever.
The second one?
Yeah, the actual Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels one.
Yeah,
Dumber
I
and
have.
Dumber, whatever. The free drink bit.
Oh, I haven't seen the second one. I've always been curious to, but I never got around to watching it because people were like, "It sucks." So I'm like, "All right, well,
Bro,
Remember the kid when you're
I need to
younger
watch
is
The
like,
Sopranos."
smell my finger?
it's not as good as the first one.
Think of that,
Well-
but
It's all right. So I need to check it out. Though is what I'm hearing.
my drink tastes funny. Smell this.
It's worth the $2.99
That's awesome.
rental on Vudu.
Oh, fuck yeah, I'm in. Nice. Today's episode is brought to you by Voodoo. Voodoo, an all-in-one platform.
Yeah, Vudu, Blue
You're
Chew.
right, Mark. You know how to do
Yeah.
it.
Dude, everything's a hustle if you really want it to be. I heard it. I was watching. Okay, do you guys watch any of the 30 for 30 documentaries that ESPN puts
Absolutely.
out?
Yeah.
Okay, did you guys watch the American Gladiators one?
And
Oh,
just-
not yet, dude. It is.
I
Oh my
just
God.
yeah.
It just DVR'd like last night or like 2 days ago for me, so I'm just over this. But there's a great quote at the end about it sucks because it was like this piece of shit dude involved in the production, and I'm like, fuck this guy. And at the end, they're like, he's one of those hustlers that like always is trying to figure out a way to like turn whatever activity or creative endeavor he has into a monetary one. And they're like, if he was about to die, he'd be like, pull the camera out and see who we can sell this to. And I was like, fuck, I've never felt more seen in my entire life. And I'm like, that guy fucking sucks. Why do I have to be like him? But it's a fucking awesome documentary, especially if you guys liked American Gladiators and all.
Yes.
So,
I heard some of it, like, where they talked about, like, no, that shit was real. Like, we were out there trying to, like, smoke fools.
That's awesome.
dude, it's insane. It's like great to watch. It's funny to think about how much shit they got away with. And even crazier. So, like, the ESPN one is, like, I would argue more serious of the two that got made. But Netflix made one, too.
That's the one that I saw the preview for, and it was like literally them just being like, yeah, everything we did was so fucking dangerous.
It's
that is what I
insane.
seen,
Like
yeah.
the human pendulum where they would just be like, yeah, they just swung from a rope and like, see how hard I can hit this person.
And they're like, take a bunch of steroids so you'll be fine quickly.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Dude, it's nuts. I loved American Gladiators. Okay, it's funny that how much I loved that, but I totally missed the boat on wrestling. Like, no
Right.
one I knew was into it until I was like 19, and at that point, I was like, "Sorry, guys, I've been reading comics instead." You know what I mean?
Well,
Mark, you know what you ought to do, buddy, is you ought to take us up on an offer and let us buy you a ticket to a Wrestling Revolver show.
I was just about to say that.
You ought to
Yeah,
come.
With
check
us,
it out.
man.
You ought to
I've
come.
had so
show.
many people try to get me in. It hasn't worked yet, but as I tell everyone, I'm like, I'm always down to try again.
Well, we'll
But
get
you've
you a
never
ticket.
been to a wrestling event with the dads.
To be
Right.
to
That
be
is
fair,
true.
This is one of the best local, not just local, in the entire world, one of the best independent wrestling federations you could go to. So
Is this NWF?
No. This is Pro Wrestling Revolver. It's owned
okay.
and ran by a pro wrestler named Sammy Callahan. He's had tenure in WWE, Impact,
Oh,
NXT.
shit.
So he's a big time wrestler, but he's got his own stuff going. And man, the level of quality of production that these guys bring, we officially have stepped in as sponsors of them, and we really are huge fans. So
Dude, that's so cool.
we'll have to get you out to one of the shows, and check it out.
Yeah. I mean, seriously,
they
let me
do-
know. I'm always down.
They do a really good job of making fans because honestly, the first time that we ever went, you've heard of John Moxley. He's a Cincinnati guy. He was on the card there, and that's kind of what brought us in the door. But
That's super cool.
everybody else made us fans of the promotion.
That's
So
awesome.
I mean, that's what we love about them in general is they bring in those kind of people that like you may not have heard of them, but by the
Yeah.
time you leave that building, you're gonna be
You
a fan.
care.
Of them.
That's cool. I'm down, boys. I will try again. The worst that happens, and I'm like, it still didn't connect, but I did have fun hanging out. Also, I'm going to make a Daddy World Order shirt to wear with you that night.
Yes. That's fantastic.
Probably gonna get the wrong DMs for that shirt. So
I know. We're gonna start the first 2 minutes of the show with like a ball gag in.
Wait, is this? Oh, I misunderstood the show.
Exactly. Leave it to me to take it one step too far every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, man, you got any other projects that you're working on right now besides your podcast? Is your podcast you're just trying to build that as big as you can right now? Is that what's your future looking like?
I'd say that's correct. I mean, I've had a really good year this year. I've worked in a couple commercials. I've got like a couple Ohio lottery ads that have been running. Like they played it at Post Malone the other night, which I thought was insane. Like getting those texts from people, they're like, "Dude, I'm at Post Malone right now, and you're on TV." I'm like, "Hell yeah, that's fucking cool." That was one. I did one. I've got one for Big Lots that I don't think has come out yet, but that should be a fun one. So my thing is usually I'm like, you know, now that I'm old too, I'm like, okay, we have to make sure I figure out the money train at all times. So like the commercial acting stuff is really fun, and I'm always trying to get into film stuff. But you know, with all now, especially with the writer's strike and the actor strike going on, everything shut down. Like I literally I don't remember. It was like a day before the strike officially commenced. I got an film audition that came in, and I was like, fuck yeah. And it was like one of those parts where you read the little description of the character. I'm like, oh, baby, you mean you just want me to show up? Got it, right? And I was like so confident about it. And so I got it that day. I'm like, yep, I'll read for this. I'll send it to you tomorrow. Then the next morning, they're like, hey, the strike's happening. We stand in solidarity. And I obviously do too. But there is that part where I'm like, no. Like it felt like such a, you know. But so like, you know, just trying to
like anything like you had going on when COVID hit, and it was just like
fuck. Exactly, very similar. And it's like, you know, again, I want it to ultimately, big picture, Mark recognizes that these strikes are going to be beneficial for not just all the people making this shit, but also for the quality of things that are going to get produced. I'd like to think. So that should hopefully change.
Stop doing remakes.
I mean, I think here's what I'm hoping will happen. And I don't know if it will or not, but like I think about this also in the video game world where like everything now is either AAA where they spent like $300 million to produce this thing. And this is the same for movies, right? You're either watching the Avengers or you're watching some like $10,000 indie movie that A24 put out, right? Those are the only two movies that exist. And video games are the same way, but think back to like the PS2 GameCube era where it was like, yeah, you had some big bangers like that and you had the tiny shit, but you also had all these like grades in between, like the single A games where you'd have enough budget to do something creative, but no one was expecting it to be like, you know, they're not expecting to make $1 billion off it. They're like, oh, we spent $25 million on this movie. We're hoping we make 100. And I'm hoping that this will, you know, greed is permanent, so it probably really won't work as positively as I'm hoping. But there is part of me that really thinks that this could provide like a wide reset to the entire entertainment industry, at least in the, you know, in the visual side. I think musicians should strike next.
Do you know how I know you're not as old as me? Is because when you use GameCube as a reference for old video games.
Well, dude, I always said that because I'm like, it's been 20 years.
I am the reigning and defending champion of being old on this show.
Well, wait, how old are you then?
I'm 43 years young.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's good. So I'm not too far behind you though, so.
I got a lot more gray than you do, but I've been through teenagers.
Yeah, but I also have a hair. I also have the what's the hair company that dyes your shit? I was like, I have a sponsorship from them that keeps me youthful looking too.
Just for men.
Yeah, thank you.
This episode went by. I tried that for a while. It's a lot to keep up with, though, man.
Dude, if I didn't have to do a visual job, I personally, like, I'm not like, I'm getting old. Like, I don't really give a fuck. But I recognize that, unfortunately, the industry I'm in will not be as forgiving as I am to myself. So it's like the thing is like I keep a little of the gray in, but I'll occasionally do a little of the occasionally do the wash in ones to just kind of keep it from going like white. You know, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. It'll be fine. I'm aging gracefully otherwise.
Let it go all white, and then you could be a Santa Claus.
You say that like I don't already have the costume, dude.
It's literally my retirement goal. I just want to retire and be a Santa Claus.
Yeah, I'd go like full Nathan for you on it, and I'd be doing Santa Claus in July and giving people discounted photos, but the only game in town. Like, well, listen, I don't see any other Santa Claus offering to hook it up, and you guys can be ready for this fall.
Just go hang out in the mall in
Guess
July.
what? You can skip all the lines. Take your picture now. Send it out as your holiday card.
Dude, and I would have an app, and you'd fucking go on there and be like, I'll take 6:30 p.m. on Thursday.
Yeah, and just have the whole setup in the background. Nobody needs to know it's July.
Nobody
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I might honestly just do this now. I'm just like, listen, with a little either dye or a fake beard, I'm like, we can put this together, And
Dude.
Hollywood's on strike. I'm sure my makeup artist friends aren't doing shit right now. I have a gig for you. I want to cut you in on the Santa Claus racket,
Dude, go in like September. Go to Perfect North over in Indiana. They have a bunch of fake snow. Like, genius. I'm telling
That
you.
is genius. Listen, Perfect North
from
you're
the North
watching right now. The perfect North Pole. Am I right?
It's right there. Guys, we
That's
just
so good.
business ideas. I love it.
Dude, I'm ready for it. See, everything is a hustle if you let it be,
Right.
Mark,
I just
you
want to
work
figure
at
out how
a
to
place-
monetize watching TV. I'm so sorry.
You work at a
That'd be
place
amazing.
that sells everything you could conceivably think of from all over the world. What's the weirdest thing you've eaten?
Oh, that I've eaten? I'd say the safe answer, because I've gotten close on a couple of things that, while I don't want to be disrespectful of culture, are a little off-putting to me. Like balut, if you guys have heard of that before. It's like a somewhat fermented duck egg, but it has like an embryo in it. That's like not. And then
I've seen
here's the
Fear
thing.
Factor.
Right. I did not realize how complete the animal was until we opened it up. And I was like, oh, that's a whole ass bird. I'm not doing this.
That is a fully formed bird.
I thought it was gonna be like a really well done hard boiled egg, but this is
I thought I
It's
was
a
like
baby
the
in there.
beak. People kept saying it was like, oh, it's like an egg. You might taste you're not like feel the beak. And I'm like, okay, a hard crunch in an egg, I can get through this. And then when like a whole bird came out, I was just like, no, dude, I'm good. I'm totally good with that. So that was one. But the durian, it's this notoriously stinky fruit, and it kind of smells like you let a bunch of old onions rot in a plastic bag in like socks, and then you left it for a year and came back and you're like, this is a very specific scent. But then when you
sounds delicious.
dude, it's crazy though. And I have this theory now that it's kind of like, some people think cilantro tastes like soap. I think it's this thing, because some people are like, no, when you eat it still tastes like shit. For me, I'm eating it and it's like this creamy, goopy custard. Like that's kind of the texture of it, like the fruit. It's almost like, imagine a wetter banana, like to give you an idea. Yeah. And you eat it though, and I'm telling you, it's like, this smells like shit. This smells like shit. As soon as it hits my tongue, the smell dissipates entirely to me, and it tastes like, I don't want to say generic in like a negative way, but like, if I told you, think of tropical fruit flavoring, like you'd had in the ice pop or some shit like that. Yeah. It tastes exactly like that. It was so weird.
Really?
And I felt like, I told someone the other day, I was like, when they have those scenes in movies, in like sci-fi movies, where like a human crashes on an alien planet and they can't speak the language, but then they like feed them something, and then suddenly they can translate. That's how it felt. Like, I'm like, it smells like a corpse. And then suddenly you're like, oh shit, that's kind of that's a pineapple banana. That's good, If only all corpses tasted this good, I'm
gonna do fine during the apocalypse. Shit.
Right, exactly. But it is a funky odor. There was a running joke where it was like, is somebody cutting durian, or do we have a gas leak in the building? Like that, to give you an idea of like the potency, and like, it's wild. But
like, who do you think was like the first human to like come across that and be like, this fruit is atrocious looking, let me cut it open. Oh, it smells like death itself. Let me try to eat that.
I'm gonna eat it.
Well, I feel like that was so many things. Like, who discovered like the first nut, or when like, you guys ever seen those like, any of them? You're like, okay, listen, these eggs are the ones that don't have.
I'm gonna cook it.
Yeah, this one has one, this one doesn't, and we're gonna just try until we're fucking right. You
Who
know,
was
that's a
the
great
first person
question.
to eat the mushrooms out of cow shit? Who was like, "Oh, look at those things growing out of that poop. Let me eat
It
that."
had, you know what it had to be? I bet it was a prank. I bet somebody was like, "Oh, I got to go pick mushrooms today. I know exactly the mushrooms I'm gonna bring back to the fucking, the fire pit." And then they get there, and then somebody had this like revelatory experience, and they were like, "Oh shit, well, I gotta go find more cow shit mushrooms because I want to trip balls, or whatever they would call it back
This
then."
tastes terrible.
Yeah,
Like that, or
Love 'em.
it almost had to be like, I'm sure a lot of stuff was discovered just based off of, okay, if I don't eat this, I'm gonna die. Like
Right.
just starvation mode. You
For
know what
sure.
I mean?
Yeah. Smack everything to see if there's anything inside that's useful. And I bet that's how a lot of these things work. Where you're just like, oh, break it. Yeah. It's not a rock. Maybe there's food inside,
Yeah.
I would do that
That-
now
That'd
if it
be
was
a
more
do-
publicly acceptable.
that if there's like a historian out there or like documentarian that I don't know if there is a documentary out there like that, I would watch that all day long because I
Dude,
find
fuck
that
yeah.
shit fascinating.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wonder if you'd know, because I feel like so much of it is prehistoric, right? Like they probably
Yeah.
weren't writing it down, or we wiped the cave drawings off of somebody smashing
Yeah,
into
like
a
who was the
coconut for the
first
first
one
time.
to come up with a recipe for something? Like, ooh, I'm gonna put this on this and it makes it taste better.
Yeah, and people are, damn, dude, that's ketchup, Like, and
Like,
then in
who's
no
the
time,
first one to take a salt rock and crush it up and be like,
yeah, this rock is tasty. Can you imagine?
Did you guys know that ketchup was actually not originally made from tomatoes?
Oh, what they use.
Like any vegetable possible. But
Okay.
it was literally used to cover up the foul taste of bad meat. Because
I mean,
meat preservation was so bad.
is it not
Go
used
check out
that
the
way
Food
now?
That Made Us documentaries.
Oh, great show.
Absolutely.
Dude, there's a guy in town that's a food historian I've met a couple times. We're Facebook friends. I guess we're real friends now.
Cut him out.
But his name is Dan Wallert. You guys should follow him. He does a ton of food history content.
Really?
And I think he's written some books. And he's always doing presentations. Like he was doing, I swear to God, it's like tomorrow, if it wasn't today, where he's doing a presentation, I think at maybe the Cincinnati Science Museum or something, but he was doing something, and I saw he had like a 4-foot tall fork where he was like twirling up a three-way on it. I'm not sure what the theme of this one is, but you guys, I think if you like that kind of content, he's been on, I don't know if it's the food that he's been on one of the History Channel food shows,
Huh.
and he was on one the other night. Super cool dude, very approachable, very knowledgeable about all things food and Cincinnati history.
well, I want to have him on now because I love
Yeah,
food.
dude.
Right.
He's a cool guy. So I can't speak for any of these people, but I'm like, shit, I'm the type of person in general. I'm like, always write the email. Worst case, they'll just tell you to fuck yourself, but politely.
That's what we do, man. We ask people, and the worst comes to worst, they say no. But we appreciate it when they say yes, like you, man. You're helping us grow our show. And if you're willing to have us, we'd love to come on your show and do something ridiculous. Maybe we could raise some money for something good. We talked about a couple ideas, but I'd really like to hash something out and make it final, and we'll come humiliate ourselves just to get some views for both of us.
I'm in.
Do something ridiculous. Maybe get the city involved a little bit and do something awesome. We could definitely
that'd be
put
fun.
our minds together and get something really cool.
I say the
Yeah,
city's
especially-
buzzing right now, with the Reds doing well and the Bengals, doing
And
what
everybody's
they do.
hyped for the new season.
FC Cincinnati,
Yeah.
the city is a buzz, so it's a good time to be in Cincinnati. And
Taylor Swift likes us now.
Yeah. Swifties.
I'm a Swift.
Dude, I was downtown during that shit, and I'm like pretty ambivalent on Taylor Swift, like not in a mean way. I'm just like I don't care. But the energy in the room, as it were, was like so palpable. I've never experienced anything like that here. It felt like when I'm like in LA, where I was like, oh wow, the city's alive right now. Like people were like pumped the fuck up, and I'm just like, I've been here for like 20 something years, and I've never seen the city be like that.
Dude, I was on that. I think it was that Thursday, like before that weekend.
Mhm.
I was picking my dad up from the airport from CVG, and they had a Taylor Swift like life-size cutout just at the gate where people were disembarking. so you could take a picture with. Like they were expecting that many people flying in that it was just like, hey, she's gonna be here. Take a picture with her cutout.
Yeah, why not though? Yeah,
I
it's
do
cool.
that at my house.
Why? Yeah. Now I just want more cutouts. I think, dude, it's one of those things that like I know everybody was like, well, because we live in a society of we dunk on each other all the time now. But I was like, man, I hope that we keep this energy for more big acts that come through. Like, I know Taylor Swift is like one of the biggest ones on the planet, but like we have a lot of big names that come through regularly. Imagine if like every time a fairly large artist came in, we rolled out the carpet like that. We're like, all right, restaurants naming a couple specials after you this week. It doesn't have to be any big deal. Just be kind of a little bit of bullshit, but it's cute. People like that or be happy, I hope.
That's what I love best about the whole Taylor Swift thing. It was like there was a lot of attention on Cincinnati at that time. And I was, myself personally was like, please let this weekend go out without a hitch. Let nothing stupid happen. Because every news report and everybody you talk to that went out there, whether they were in there or around there, was like, it was a great time. It was positive energy and everything like that. But I mean, it was great that was brought to a city that has had so much turmoil. So,
totally agree.
Oh, hang on. We got comments from a good friend of ours, Dave, at the Pro Wrestling Podcast. He said, "Stop yelling! I'm trying to sleep." Dave is very soft spoken, I guess you could say, gentleman. But we love him to death. Let's see what else. Food is good, but you ever had someone care about you? Dave,
that's why I eat so much, dude.
Food loves me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
And apparently Taylor Swift is his girlfriend, so he wins.
Look, I believe it at this point.
You guys are gonna break up soon, and she's gonna write a song about you. So
yep. He said, "I'm gonna break up with her, so a song is made about me." There you go, Dave.
There it is.
That's fantastic. The Dave from Pro Wrestling Podcast.
Dave's one of our really good friends. We've actually been to a couple shows with him. He lives up in Chicago.
Cool.
He was another one we just kind of met through the community, and
I love it.
It's been awesome positivity. He is pretty much the only social media page that when CM Punk was suspended got him to like come out of his hole and like say things on social media. Like he would comment on hit posts that he made, and it was really cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
We call him the CM Punk Whisperer.
Is.
Yeah. But
sort
yeah,
of. I've Googled a few times. When he's come up in conversation before, I'm like, I should know what this person looks like for this.
A cigarette.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Your dad knew it.
You're okay, man. You're good. Well, you fellas got anything else?
I'm good, man. I think we've had an awesome time here tonight, man. Mark, do you have anything you want to plug besides your podcast before you get out of here, man?
Yeah, I mean, that's really my main thing right now. I mean, you can follow me if you go to themarketing.com. That's like my social handle on pretty much everything. The Mark, ENING. I would say follow me there. It's just me being a loose cannon weirdo all the time. But that's probably a good way to keep up with it. I mean, I'm always trying to come up with other ideas. Like, I still like playing music occasionally. I got a couple film ideas I'm working on. I haven't made a short in a couple of years, but all this shit with the strike going on, I'm like, I want to make something. So, yeah, follow me along and listen to the podcast.
I'll tell you what, man, that website name, I know there are probably some wrestling personalities that would pay a lot of money for that domain name.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
To be a Mark is, to be a wrestling fan. So the marketing, that's when I initially thought you would be a huge wrestling fan. But
that's very funny.
Yeah.
And I'm just, if you ever get into wrestling content, man, you're golden. Like, you
already got the platform name that everyone wants.
See, I would just create myself as this like shadowy backer who has a physical, like a pinch hitter, as it were, wrestle on my behalf, and then you know what I mean. There's my idea.
You get wrestling already.
See, it sounds kind of like, and part of me is like, it's funny. I don't think I would
See?
enjoy watching it until I was like doing it. Does that
He's
make
such
sense?
a mark.
He's
Such a mark.
mark.
I want to be. I would really like. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people feel this way. I'm like, I think I'd be a fun heel. You know?
Oh yeah.
No, yeah. Everybody wants to be a heel. If heels
It's
are
Right,
really
of
bad,
course. I'm just like, you're saying I get to come here and just create chaos for everyone else's enjoyment. Please let me come
to be
over.
mean to everybody on purpose.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm letting those demons out for a minute. So amazing. No, guys,
I'm
truly, thanks
in
for having me,
character.
guys. Yeah,
Right.
right.
Shout out
I
to your
appreciate you guys having me, guys.
doggo for making an appearance. It's such a beautiful.
Oh yeah, of course. And he abandoned me since, so I guess that's one less fees incurred for you tonight,
He
Morrison.
probably,
Hey,
heard you talking
here,
shit about him, and he's like, "All right, well, now I'm gonna go away."
Yeah, exactly. Hiding in the other room. What a
Oh, Mark
motherfucker.
Morrison.
Yeah, good kid. No, guys, thank you so much. I had a great time. Thanks for having me. We'll obviously talk about ideas and shit in the future here as far as what we want to do together. But yeah, that's a thing. So
Let's do
Yeah,
something
well,
stupid and let's do something for charity, man.
yeah.
Go.
All right, we're
go
going too
subscribe to the
Helping
Jungle
people?
Gyms podcast because
I said helping people. Yeah.
Ugh.
go
No,
subscribe
thank
to
you.
that because there is a very good chance that you will see the dads on there soon doing something stupid.
Yeah, we'll do
I don't know
something
if
fun.
We'll be
Like, yeah, we'll
bathing
come
in
up with something
chili,
crazy.
but we'll do something dumb and awesome.
Yeah.
Something cool.
When I
yeah,
say
that'd
dumb,
be great.
I really mean awesome because I love stuff like that. It cracks me up. So,
Yeah, you guys are good dudes. Thank you.
hey, thank you for coming on, man. We
Yeah.
really appreciate you coming on. This has been an awesome, super fun conversation.
Yeah.
And as always, we are the DWO podcast. I have been Big Rig. He has been Mr. Magnificent Mike Martin. He has been Wrestling T-shirt Guy Cephas, and he is the host of the Jungle Gyms podcast, Mr. Mark Borison. Thank you so much for coming on, sir. If you're watching right now, give us a like, give us a sub. We would very much appreciate it. You see all our socials down there, all that good stuff. I'm still so bad at these outros, it's crazy.
Buy a t-shirt. T-Public. Pro Wrestling
T-Public,
Tees.
Pro Wrestling Tees. Go buy a t-shirt. Support us. We're all pretty much broke. But
My kid just designed a shirt. Buy her shirt.
Yeah. Go check that out. That's on our
Oh.
T-Public store. Cephas' 9-year-old daughter designed us a t-shirt. And it
Oh,
is
that's
up there.
awesome.
It is pretty cool,
This is the
man.
best one we've ever had.
Mark, real quick before we go, can we get you to just do one little quick quip for us and just say, hey,
Yeah.
this is Mark Borison and you're watching the DWO podcast for us? Get us something like that?
Of course. Just let me know when you're ready.
Go ahead. We're going to clip it out.
Okay. I'm Mark Borison, and you're watching the DWO podcast. And then I draw the D like it's the Disney Channel.
Exactly.
Thank you, brother. We appreciate
I love
you so much.
Dude,
All
I'm
right,
so
well-
glad to be here. Thank you for having me, guys. Have a great night.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all for watching. Till next time. Top Dads out.
That road